Well, we've just started the third part of the journey, and it feels an incredibly privileged position in that, a lot of the time, in order to make theatre, you have to make yourself very vulnerable as a director and particularly as actors. The actors are up there and they have to show everything that they've got. They have to be, to strive. I always want my actors to strive for some emotional authenticity.
It's a wonderful challenge to go back into rehearsal, get a fresh run of things, and know that you're taking it to a completely new audience whose responses are not predictable, who will unsettle us perhaps and make us all think again very hard about what we're doing.
Walking in and feeling like you're going to already be part of something huge. It's a very strange but oddly magical experience. It feels a bit like you're drunk, but on the Tudors.
We were so lucky in rehearsals when we started for the Royal Shakespeare Company to, the first 2 weeks we went on these amazing trips for research.
So going to Hampton Court, going to the Tower of London, see these places that these people really would have stood and been inhabited was amazing.
But when I got into rehearsal, it was trying to achieve some sort of state of innocence so that I'm not leaning on too much of a sense of history, too much of a backstory, too much of a received idea of how the Tudor era should be represented, but I'm just actually quite open and quite present in rehearsal in order to find out what the best way to communicate this story.
Even if it's meant to look very organic and unpremeditated, the movement has to be thought through and experimented with, and then in some ways rehearsed so that it has the sense of being completely spontaneous.
There are bits that just stick and are kind of constantly there and they're solid, and you go, I can always rely on that moment between yourself and another actor, or a choice that you've made, or even just watching a choice that another actor's made. But at the same time, it's quite exciting to be able to explore different things, and a lot has changed, even not necessarily in terms of lines being changed, but just the way people are playing certain moments.
Ben, who plays Cromwell, will just turn like this, and then he'll turn back, or he'll turn all the way around. And suddenly you're in a different time zone, a different location, totally different energy. And it keeps the play bobbling along as fast as you can.
Christopher Oram and Paulie Constable and David Plato doing the lights, and Stephen Warbeck doing the music, and Nick Powell doing the sound, and Sean Williams doing the movement. We've all worked together just to really occupy that space and make what could feel like an epic piece of theatre surprisingly intimate.
Because it's so massively multi-locational, had to end up being something much, much simpler, because we couldn't possibly have been to all the locations that are referred to in the plays, both plays. So we had to find a kind of language whereby we allowed ourselves a simple unit set that could tell sense of scale rather than specific place.
In the case of Wolf Hall, you've got there's 30 scenes, so there's so many different locations you have to create, because the set's sort of a standing set, so you've got to create 30 different locations. So that's quite a challenge in itself.
Darkness is your greatest friend. It's what the audience can't see, which is interesting, not what they can quite a lot of the time. It's what you believe you tell an audience to look at.
I was delighted, of course, when we sold out in Stratford-upon-Avon, and it was a complete no-brainer that it should go into town, and it was great to be able to take it to the Aldwych. We still didn't know whether such a big show would survive in a competitive West End with a huge number of other really great shows in the West End, but it did. And the call to bring it to Broadway seemed irresistible.
Visibly you could see our audience just within 5 or 10 minutes of starting the show, just really setting back into their seats and just luxuriating in the feast that's on offer. And it's a very appetizing and delicious feast. It's surprisingly entertaining, and that's a kind of wonderful thing to offer an audience when they think that they're going to have something that's quite hard work and yet very good for them. to actually serve up great fun, and our audience just are desperate to get into the second play. They want to see how it pans out.
We knew from our American friends who came to see it, the huge number of tickets that Americans bought in London, that we almost had a responsibility to allow this to be seen more broadly.
I think this is the best version of Wolf Hall Parts 1 and 2 that has ever existed, will ever exist. The stage is phenomenal, it's a wonderful shape. The theatre looks amazing. The scale of it really seems to suit this play. And the scripts have evolved again and again and again. Now we have, I think, the most refined version we've ever had. I think the audiences in New York are going to see the best version of this. And there have been some great versions of it, but I think it just keeps getting better and better.
When you see these familiar people, Henry, Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, you may come with a preconceived idea of what they were like. I hope we will challenge that. I hope that we will entertain our audiences, but also allow them to take away something to think about, be perhaps a little less certain, be provoked, be amused. It's a lot funnier than people ever imagine it's going to be. And be frightened as well, be drawn into it, so that they feel the moment by moment fear of those people whose life hangs by a thread.